21 minutes past the hour. This is the Craig Fahle Show on 1019 WDET. Thank you very much for being with me on this Monday. And, our question of the day here at WDET is, if indeed the signatures are gathered to put the bridge question on the ballot, would you vote to support a new international trade crossing, a new bridge across to Canada, or not? And that's the question of the day. Pretty simple. But there are a lot of questions about the process, how it's all going to work, and if we do indeed build another bridge across, what's going to happen to people in the Delray neighborhood that are there right now? Some of them obviously are going to have to move, and some businesses may have to be relocated as a result of this. So what's the best way to go about doing this? Should the government use power of eminent domain to do it? And joining me right now to talk about this aspect of it is Alan Ackerman. He's an attorney who specializes in eminent domain questions and has been thinking a lot about how it applies to the bridge question. Also, he's an attorney with Ackerman and Dinkowski. That's the firm. I wanted to make sure I got that in there. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me, Craig.
Well, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered, especially for those who live in the neighborhood where this new bridge would go in, just in the Delray neighborhood here in the city of Detroit. As far as the planning process is going so far, I mean, as far as you know, how far along are they in determining who would be impacted by this?
Well, this starts with a program called an environmental impact statement. That means the government goes and sees what businesses and what residents are in an area, what churches are in an area. The environmental impact statement here was prepared about 13 years ago. At that time, there were 1,100 housing units, probably meaning 35 to 4,200, 4,500 people. Right now, there's less than 130 housing units left. In other words, that area. So it does not have the huge effect on the residents as it had before. They receive benefits. They get 125% of value of their home under the Michigan Constitution. They get relocation benefits. There's still a number of businesses, viable businesses, despite all this inactivity for the last 13 years and the knowledge that this project was going to occur. A few new businesses have opened. A lot of businesses have closed there, but that's true of industrial businesses everywhere. The real issue here is, where do we want to go with our city?
When we went down to Delray and we talked to a lot of the citizens that showed up at a community meeting we had down there, they were looking at this project as the first real development project for their neighborhood that they've seen in the last 30 plus years, saying this is the one thing we have to hang our hat on at this point in time. But they also were concerned about how they might be impacted by this and what responsibility the city and the government have in terms of compensating them if they are indeed in the path of this thing.
There's two situations. The residents there will get 125% of value based upon 2008 values. Not
okay,
today.
so pre-bridge values. So
yeah.
Okay,
so those people they'll get relocation, and they'll probably get relocated nearby. However, they're also going to get preferences for jobs, and preferences probably with the bridge jobs. And they also realize that there's going to be new industry and new businesses moving in once the new bridge is done. And the reality is that if we want to develop Southwest Detroit, which is clearly the one growth area in the city, the population has gone up there the last 20 years. If we want to develop that and have a strong city, starting block by block, it has to start there. It has to be helped there where the impetus is there to do it. You're not just talking about a bridge. You're talking about a freight terminal as well that people forgot about. They forget that the city agreed with the state as part of the agreement that they entered into only a few weeks ago to improve the bridge and build a freight terminal. And they can't build a freight terminal till they build a bridge further downriver at where this location is.
Sure.
So now we've got to decide, do we want to have a city that lies fallow, or are we going to have it develop? This is a key factor.
Taking a look at this this proposed ballot question here that, of course, the Maroon family is behind. They will pay people to get signatures, of course, because they can. And if you want to get something on the ballot, paid circulators is a key component of that, because you need 300,000 signatures to get this on there. The way that the question would read, from what I understand, says that Michigan voters would have to approve any new bridge or tunnel to Canada, and said that using it the basis that voters deserve to have a say on whether the state should commit resources to a new bridge project. Now, would the potential arrangement with the Canadian government make that question void?
I would hope so. And the reality is that you may have other sources that fund the bridge than even the Canadian government. The real funding source is going to be the people who buy the bonds, because the bridge is going to be sold on bonds, which get repaid as the bridge tolls are paid. I would suggest to you other sources could do it, such as Wayne County, such as the city of Detroit. What happens if the city of Detroit does it? If the city of Detroit does it and the Canadian government guarantees the bonds, the city of Detroit has a chance for an upside if the bridge really is profitable, which I think it will be.
Okay, so that might potentially get around the taxpayer question then.
Yes.
So from a legal standpoint, this ballot question may not have an impact on whether or not this gets built.
That's true. It may be moot, but what's more interesting than that is that if it is moot and there are no state funds used and they can't use their match, are they going to lose the federal money they have for all the other road projects in the state? And I can't answer that. I haven't looked at what Maroon's intent is and what the effect of it is.
Okay, now I do want to get back to the question of the people who are in the pathway of this. Do we have an idea of how many people might be impacted yet? I mean, because the population of that neighborhood has declined significantly, and there is a significant level of abandonment in that neighborhood as well. So, I mean, how many families are we talking about here?
Probably, my guess is somewhere between 100 and 150 housing units, family units, unless they take the apartments on the north side, which they don't intend to do. Probably 30 to 40 businesses and probably 8 or 12 institutions, 8 to 12 of churches, and some of them are historic churches, by the way.
Okay, so if that were the case, I mean, when you look at if this project was anywhere else, how does that rank in terms of how many people would be negatively impacted by this? And maybe positively, depending on how you look at it, obviously. If somebody gets relocated and to a better spot, they may be happy about it. But
my partner and I take the pride of that we reversed Pole Town because Pole Town made sense in 1980 to me, and I didn't fight it then, but by Chrysler, I was pretty upset. I just felt that government shouldn't go just buy for private enterprise. And when Pole Town happened, there were 1,600 housing units there. There was probably 125 businesses and 15 institutions, 10 institutions, churches, other public body and edifices. We're talking about 100 here. The biggest take in this will be the water department. In reality, Southwest High School in Detroit, Southwestern, is being closed anyways. So there may be a larger bridge plaza than even was planned originally with no additional expense. It may help the outstanding leadership of Roy Roberts to be benefited. Maybe the Bridge Authority will someday be paying him something for the Southwestern High School site. So we have a lot going on there that could be successful. It's a much smaller project than anything I've ever seen.
Well, you brought up Pole Town, which, of course, was very controversial. But give me an idea of how eminent domain rules have changed since that decision was made, because it's not the same now as it was back then.
It's somewhat similar. What will happen is the government, once they finally get this project going and have it funded and have a resolution from someone who has the valid power to resolve to take the property, be it the Michigan State Highway Commission, Michigan Department of Transportation, or the City of Detroit or Wayne County, or a bridge authority of some type, because it could be a bridge authority. Once they have the resolution and they have the funding, they have to get an appraisal. They've already got the environmental assessment approved by the federal government and what's called a record of decision by the federal government. So that part's done. When the city gets the appraisal, or the state, whoever it is, gets the appraisal, the governmental agency cannot offer less than their appraised value of the property. An owner then hopefully is getting a fair offer of some sort, or enough that they can move on to some de minimis standard, although it frequently happens they don't. And the owner can then go forward into the court process and challenge the project itself, or what they call public use, which will not be successful on the bridge because it is a public use.
Okay.
I mean, that's part of the problem, that Mattie Maroon isn't convinced that there should be a public bridge and it's not a public use. But they can challenge the public use, probably unsuccessfully, or challenge the just compensation, meaning the amount of money they're paid, on whether there's a fair offer being made to them.
Well, what's interesting, though, is we're watching a similar project unfold in southwest Detroit with the expansion of the Marathon refinery, where the company's made a pretty generous offer to get those. And most people are accepting that offer that's being made because they sort of sweeten the pot a little bit. I mean, is that the kind of thing that, obviously there's some goodwill if you can make it a little bit better?
Well, that's one of the problems with what the Marathon refinery is doing. Marathon recognizes, and I'm on the other side of that, and I'm pretty vociferous about it. Marathon recognizes that there's contamination issues in the area. Some of the commercial businesses cater to the people, the stores, some of the repair facilities that are along 4th Street there, and those people are being left there. The businesses are being left while all the residential neighborhood is going to be removed, which means that the only people driving there at midnight will be people driving to and from somewhere direct if they no reason to because it's not near any proximate to any expressway, or people who are going to come and rip out the stores, the remaining commercial stores and businesses, whether they're body shops or restaurants or whatever else. I mean, the best Italian restaurant in Detroit is there, Giovanni's. And they're leaving these blocks fallow. There's 15, 20 businesses that are viable businesses being left. The homeowners are being valued as if they were 2007 values, meaning that when the mortgage money, a lot of people borrowed against their houses, $60,000, $70,000 for houses now worth $8,000, $10,000 because the market is so fallen apart on this kind of housing.
Well, and that complicates this. So how does that affect the potential bridge expansion if somebody indeed does have an outstanding home equity loan, for instance, on a property that was worth something before, now they don't? Can they get out from underneath that if the state deems that they have to move?
Yes. And what the state is going to end up doing is give mortgage relocation benefits along with 125% of value. The homeowners who are left will likely talk about their properties being taken 2008, 2007, before the market collapsed. And I think the homeowners will come out alive on this process. The businesses are going to have a real fight because they don't have the voice that homeowners have. When you defend your house from valuation, you get a lot more emotionally involved than when it's your business.
Mm-hmm. Interesting discussions that are going to be had, obviously. We still need to see if this indeed goes through at this point, but it's nice to know what's coming.
If the bridge does not come, Southwest Detroit will be sinking fast. I mean, it just might as well be underneath the Detroit River.
Alan Ackerman is an attorney specializing in eminent domain issues with Ackerman, and Dinkowski. We appreciate your insight, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks a million.
This is the Craig Fahle Show on 101.9 WDET.